The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom hype continues to grow after the 10-minute gameplay demonstration from Mr. Al-Numa. We've got some new information on the sales of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and also much more. But let's go ahead and talk about this because Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has done something not a lot of games have ever done. So we do know about it doing very well pre-orders wise. I've talked about that just a bit on this channel, but now we actually have new information that it's #1 in the game sales on Amazon in 9 different countries. Now, I knew about Japan, I knew about the US and maybe a European country or two, but now 9 different countries: US, Japan, Italy, Mexico, Australia, Germany, Canada, and Spain. The last time that we saw anything close to that when it comes to sales is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Even Splatoon 3 was #1 in a number of regions, but not 9 separate countries. So this is incredibly good to see when it comes to the debut of The Legend of Zelda. And there was concerns, and valid concerns. I can completely understand people being off put a little bit by the price, because I think even in Canada the game is 89, so 90 Canadian dollars, and obviously the euro is higher in value than the US, the pound higher. So there's certain things when it comes down to it with money increasing the price that can absolutely give people pause a bit or concern with it. So I completely understand that, but it seems like people are unfazed a bit here because The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is doing incredibly well across the board. We had pre-orders go up for the Pro Controller and also for the system, and that system on Amazon Japan and anywhere where it's able to be pre-ordered is shooting up to the top of the charts as well, probably for collectors for a lot of people, but also just to be able to have a OLED to play if you haven't pulled the trigger on an OLED yet with the Pokemon one or the Splatoon one or the standard one or the white one that came out back in 2021. This is a great OLED to pick up with Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So I do think that that's pretty cool to see how well the game is doing, because once again, there was concerns that it might not be able to hit the heights of sales of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, speaking of that though, let's discuss what this game could possibly do. I do feel that the game should probably sell at least 15 million in the first month, and that's a very basic general prediction. If you're going off of past major games that didn't get pre-ordered as much, we can look at a game like Splatoon 3, for example, that sold 10 million plus in its first couple or few months or so. I think that The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is going to have a bigger launch worldwide than Splatoon 3, but it might not quite hit the heights of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet in the first month and a half. That game sold 20 million units plus, 10 million plus in the first 3 days. So I think that The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom could be in between Splatoon 3 and also Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. When anticipating sales, you gotta have to look at what's been selling, the install base, popularity. There's a variety of factors that you kind of put into it. And of course, pre-orders and the hype going into it. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom clearly has that, with 9 separate countries, it being #1. Nintendo does not release pre-order eShop sales numbers or anything like that, but I guarantee you that it's going to shoot up to the top of the pre-orders if it hasn't already done so at this point. So this should be the best selling launch for a Zelda game ever. This is the best atmosphere that a Zelda game has ever launched in, and it's also the most popular Zelda has ever been in the history of the franchise. So it's the perfect storm and follow-up, obviously, to the best-selling Zelda game of all time on one of Nintendo's best-selling systems of all time. So all the pieces kind of fit into place for Tears of the Kingdom to have a monster launch despite that $70 price tag and people stating that the marketing wasn't good enough for it to do well. Looks like it's doing just fine. And I'll be completely honest here, guys, I don't need to see any more. Now, if they show more of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, if there's like a Zelda Direct, I'll watch it, I'll cover it, cool, happy to see it, I'll be excited. But they don't need to show me anymore, or at least I don't need to know anymore. I'm already sold, and I've been sold ever since they announced that there was a sequel to one of my favorite games of all time. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how everything plays out here. Also, game of the year discussion, right? There's a lot of talk about that. This will easily be one of the best years in gaming, hands down. Resident Evil 4, Fire Emblem Engage. You have stuff like Star Wars coming out. You have Starfield coming out. You have Spider-Man. You have Final Fantasy 16. There's a lot of fantastic titles that are still yet to come out and have already launched this year. Octopath Traveler 2 is great. Not saying that all these games are going to be in the discussion at the very end. I'm just saying that there's a lot of great games that people around the world will have in their own personal game of the year, and also with the media, the game awards, whatever the case is. So I'm just excited to have such a great year in gaming and awesome games to talk about. So I do feel that it's going to be fun going forward. May 12th is going to be here before we even know it. Now, we do have one more bit of information on the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. The official Zelda Japanese page on Twitter put out some new information on a golem enemy in Tears of the Kingdom. Now, this is using Google Translate, so it might not be 100% accurate, but I do want to talk about it. So it says golem. If he finds someone he sees as an enemy, he'll start a fight, so be careful. It seems to be often seen as Sorashima, which floats in the sky above the clouds. We saw in the Tears of the Kingdom recent gameplay with Mr. Al-Numa. Now, we've seen this enemy in terms of what you get after beating it. It looks like it's got a bow and arrow on one of its tails. It's got 3 separate weapons here to be able to pierce Link, to grab Link, and also to shoot him with the arrow. Plus, he can breathe fire. So this golem seems like it's no joke if you're not careful. And remember, this was one of the equipment items that Link can get, because he clearly has it when he goes into a cave and he hits that backflip and is fighting against something. That is this weapon right here. So pretty cool. It seems like you're going to be able to get these weapons from these different golems and use them in battle, which has pretty much already been known. We've seen a little bit of that in the trailers that they've shown off, which is also very exciting to get these cool golem weapons. So excited for that overall. But another game that I'm also very excited for is Final Fantasy 16. The game has went gold. So in the span of a few days here, we've got The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom going gold. Mr. Al-Numa did confirm that at the presentation, and then also now Final Fantasy 16 goes gold. It's due out on June 22nd. For those who don't know, gold means that the game is completed and it's off to go get printed so we can get those nice physical copies. And then from that point on, the developers usually work on any last second touches for like a day one patch. Now on Twitter, the official Final Fantasy 16 account had this to say: Final Fantasy 16 has gone gold. From the entire team, including Torgal, we hope you're looking forward to Final Fantasy 16's launch on June 22nd, and the doggo is right there. Now, I am incredibly excited to play Final Fantasy 16, especially after the recent gameplay that they showed. And I feel that the only way to truly convey what a game is going to be before launch and to get me more excited is to show the moment-to-moment gameplay, not cutscenes with trailers kind of put together and all of that. And yes, that can get people excited. Heck, it gets me excited. We were going off of that with Tears of the Kingdom for how long? But it wasn't until I saw that Fuse gameplay to where we actually see it and we say, okay, that's how it's going to be on just a regular gameplay, not some type of crazy boss battle that only happens every now and then or something different, but just the moment-to-moment gameplay. And that's what we saw with Final Fantasy 16's most recent footage. We saw colors, we saw outside, we saw open-ended areas, we saw regular enemies. That is the type of stuff that is the nucleus of an adventure, of an RPG game, that moment-to-moment gameplay where you're going to be playing the most. It's not going to be all crazy action boss battles all the time. It's going to be talking with people. It's going to be out there exploring in the fields. It's going to be doing other things. So it was incredibly awesome to see that, and I love that Final Fantasy 16 is done. This picture is incredible, and I know the team is very excited to launch this next chapter in the Final Fantasy legendary history. So I'm excited for it, and I think that it's going to be really good and a game of the year candidate for sure, for me at least, based off of what I'm seeing. So what do you guys think? I would love to hear your thoughts on Final Fantasy 16. I think the gameplay just looked spectacular, and I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. I know that there's people out there that do want more of that traditional Final Fantasy, and I do too, and I wish that Square Enix would split the franchise and kind of make like traditional ATB based Final Fantasy and then also this style as well, but they're not, so we're gonna have to go with this. And honestly, in the past decade or so, I would say that this is probably the best Final Fantasy has looked from the major game standpoint, not including Final Fantasy 14, but even the launch of that game was a disaster. But if you look at 13 and the trilogy of games there, and if you look at the launch of Final Fantasy 14, you look at the launch of Final Fantasy 15, those games don't seem as polished or as good as what Final Fantasy 16 is showing off here. So I do think that there is a big opportunity here for Final Fantasy to really reclaim that day one type of polish and that day one incredible score that we haven't seen from a major Final Fantasy game in a very long time outside of Final Fantasy VII Remake. But remember, Final Fantasy VII Remake, that is going off of what Final Fantasy VII did. Obviously, different game, but still using the characters and the story and stuff that they already knew people would love. It just happened that they had to put the battle system together and redo some other things going forward with that game. But in terms of new characters, story, and everything Final Fantasy games, this is probably the best that it's been in quite some time. So absolutely excited for it. But a game that I don't really know about, but a lot of you guys have asked me to cover, and that is Tokyo Xanadu EX Plus. We have a brand new gameplay trailer for the Nintendo Switch version specifically. Now, this game is already out on PlayStation, and this is from Falcom, so the Legend of Heroes developers out there. They make another game. It's called Tokyo Xanadu, and it seems like it's got a nice cult fan base. So Falcom has released a gameplay trailer for the recently announced Switch version of Tokyo Xanadu EX Plus. Featuring the theme song Seize the Day and parts of the opening animation, the footage showcases the game's main characters and battles in the eclipse using shooting, aerial, and power skills. Now, Tokyo Xanadu EX is due out for the Nintendo Switch on June 29th in Japan. It is available now for the PlayStation 4 and PC via Steam worldwide. You guys are checking out this new gameplay footage of the Switch version, and Tokyo Xanadu is a game that I've always seen people talk about before online. It's been like one of those things where I see people say, oh, have you played Tokyo Xanadu? Look at the crazy stuff that's happening in this game. And I'm just like, oh, okay, pretty cool, but it's never really caught my eye too much. But I do want to check out Tokyo Xanadu because I finally started to get more into the Legend of Heroes series on the Nintendo Switch. So I think that, okay, if I'm getting into that, let me try out some of Falcom's other games because I do like Ys, I do like the Legend of Heroes, I do like those style of games. So Tokyo Xanadu seems like it's going to be pretty cool here. But that's going to wrap it up for this video here, guys. If you haven't seen my video about what AAA developers are discussing when it comes to the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, please check it out. It'll be right here on the screen for you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next video. Peace.